LBC.
25 to 9. Well, let's talk to Zalmi Unsdorfer, the chairman of Likud UK, who supports Benjamin Netanyahu's Likud party, as you might imagine from his description. Zalmi, very good evening to you. What's your reaction to these proposals from President Trump?
Well, it's another piece of daring by Donald Trump. The world was surprised when he boldly opened up the embassy in Jerusalem. They thought that there would be riots and intifada. The whole world was going to come to an end. It didn't. And I think that is round two. This is where he feels that he's going to double down on putting an end to this. This fiction that the land has to be divided and that Israel has no sovereignty and so on and so forth. So it's now up to Palestinians to most likely reject this out of hand, as they've rejected, I think, 7 opportunities to make peace with the Israelis.
But these proposals are so one-sided that nobody can seriously expect the Palestinians to go along with them, surely.
Well, when you say one-sided, the problem that we've had over the last 60 years of peace negotiations is that all of these plans have been created by diplomats and politicians. Never happens that a plan has been put forward by a businessman. Businessman recognizes what the realities of the situation are, and then he makes an economic case to resolve the problem. So he's basically leapfrogging over what we consider to be the corrupt and undemocratic Palestinian entity, Palestinian Authority, what used to be called the PLO, and he's going into the moderate Arab states who've got their own problems and who have gravitated towards Israel in terms of a shared enemy in Iran. And when you have Saudi Arabia being rocketed by Iran and having their refineries blown up, there's a different reality in the Middle East, and Trump is building on that.
But in the end, you can't really come to a settlement with the Palestinian leadership if you're not actually talking to them. And they clearly aren't going to talk on the basis of these proposals, because the only benefit to them, it seems from my initial reading of it, is that, yes, there's a lot of economic investment promised, $50 billion, but without any detail as to where that money is coming from. But in terms of a recognisable Palestinian state, even though they mouth the platitudes of a two-state solution, it's not really what you and I would regard as a normal state.
Well, it isn't a normal state. The so-called Palestinian state's never been a normal state. I mean, Abbas is in the 14th year of his 4-year term. I mean, there's no democracy there. There's no law and order there. You talk about the $50 billion about where it's going to come from. The bigger question is, where is it going to go to? It's going to wind up in the same place as all of the aid to the Palestinians, or 90% of the aid to the Palestinians.
So why make the proposal then? It's just smoke and mirrors, isn't it?
Well, it is, but it is a challenge. It's a very, very bold challenge that basically, you're right, comes from a very one-sided position, i.e. from the Israeli side, which is predicated on Trump's belief that, that this always has been the Jewish state, and that Jerusalem always has been the historically Jewish capital of Israel, and that, Judaism is named after Judea, and Judea is effectively the West Bank. And no matter how you change the language and change the names and change the street names and whatever, you just can't wipe out this historical link. And Trump realizes that. And there are countless other Arab countries where Palestinians could resettle. We hear about these millions and millions of refugees, down to like 7 generations of refugees, which are being funded to the nth degree by the United Nations and UNRWA, like no other refugee in the world exists other than Palestinian refugees, in terms of the gargantuan amount of aid that they receive. But it's disproportionate, and it's going down some corrupt pit, and this has to stop. And this is all actually part of Trump's plan in terms of defunding UNRWA and defunding the groups which are constantly agitating against the only democracy in the Middle East. And he just wants to put a stop to it. And sometimes, in the same way as you take out Soleimani and you make a bold move by dropping the mother of all bombs on the Taliban, this is Trump. And it's only the brave that will actually achieve anything in this world. You won't get limp-wristed politicians trying to please everyone ever going to get a solution here.
Why is Netanyahu still in office? He's been indicted on bribery and corruption charges, and it seems astonishing to the outside world that he's even still Prime Minister.
Well, it may be astonishing to the outside world, but, Netanyahu is entitled to a fair trial. He is innocent until proven guilty. He's just been indicted. I don't think for 1 minute that the ultimate trial will result in his conviction, because there have been so many actions which have been taken, including his protagonist, Victor Lieberman, who was under indictment for something like 7, 8 years, perhaps. And the matters came to trial miraculously, almost on the eve of various elections. There's a lot of political motivation here, and I'm sure Netanyahu will fight his corner. And what kind of charges are we talking about here? That he took some cigars and champagne, or that he asked for some favourable comment? I mean, look at the leadership of the rest of the world and look at their corruption.
All right.
This is nothing compared to that.
Zalmi, thank you. That's Zalmi Unsdorfer, the chairman of Likud UK.